A boy sold his phone to buy mom's medicine. CEO secretly followed in the heart of the city, where the Grand Palisade Hotel towered above traffic and secrets alike its owner, Mr. Kingsley. Ford was not a man you'd expect to find hunched over a mop bucket wearing a faded housekeeping badge that read Ronald, but recent anonymous letters describing staff cruelty and money disappearing from guest services had reached his desk, and tonight he had decided enough was enough. Pushing aside his tailored suits and polished shoes, he slipped into the life of the unseen, blending with the hum of vacuum cleaners and distant room service calls. His eyes sharp beneath the cap of his disguise. On his second day undercover, he noticed a boy at the revolving door. Samuel, no older than 19, with an oversized green doorman coat that seemed to weigh heavier on his narrow shoulders than the luggage he lifted for grumbling tourists. The boy's eyes darted nervously each time older porters walked past, and once Mr. Ford heard a muffled insult whispered too close to Samuel's ear, a slur about him smelling of cheap soap. In desperation, Mr. Ford kept mopping, yet watched when the boy ducked behind a pillar, counting crumpled bills before slipping them into a thin envelope. Later that night, Mr. Ford shadowed him into the break room, catching sight of Samuel carefully wrapping the envelope in plastic before tucking it into the pocket of his coat. Curiosity gnawed at him. So did the guilt that his own employees had allowed such silent burdens to grow unnoticed. By dawn, Samuel had left, but Ford found the envelope still hidden under a loose floorboard. Inside, a note read, "Mom's insulin money. I'll replace it when I get paid the next day." Ford, as Ronald watched Samuel drag a suitcase twice his size down the lobby steps, politely declining a guest's tip when a senior bellhop barked that Samuel was stealing guests' tips, Ford clenched the mop handle. Anger simmered that evening. He reviewed hidden camera footage from newly installed hallway cameras and saw something else. Samuel late at night, counting coins from his own pocket, slipping them into the lost luggage fund box in the staff room, then catching him later alone, selling his old phone to a street vendor across the road, rushing back with a paper bag of prescription vials. Ford's heart sank, pride tangled with rage. The boy was not stealing, he was sacrificing. Within hours, the old bellhop who'd accused Samuel was caught pocketing the actual tip jar coins. Ford traced the thefts to a tiny group of staff who'd pinned their dirty hands on an innocent doorman. The final piece came when Ford watched a clip of the same bellhop unlocking the main safe where guest tip jars were kept, lifting bundles before dawn, then laughing with another supervisor about framing the poor kid. Ford knew it was time. At dawn, Ford met Samuel by the staff exit, still disguised. Samuel, startled, almost dropping a tray of dirty room service plates. Ford spoke softly, asking why he didn't report the bullying, the mocking, the missing tip. Samuel's eyes welled up. He said, "Sir, I didn't want to lose my job. My mom needs her medicine. I can't afford problems." Ford's heart ached for this fragile honesty. The next day, the hidden camera footage leaked onto the staff's private bulletin boards. Ford arranged a mandatory staff meeting, appearing as Ronald, then peeling off his cap, revealing the hotel's elusive CO. Gasps rippled across the break room. The guilty faces paled. Ford's voice cut through the room like a judge's hammer. He fired the thieves on the spot. The entire hotel paused. The lobby silent, the elevators still. Samuel standing frozen by the vending machine. Ford called him forward, handed him a new phone and an envelope containing a bank card. He whispered, "This covers every penny you lost, plus your mother's treatment, forever your family. Here, now son." Samuel sobbed, unable to form words. A staff who once mocked him now clapped awkwardly. Ford didn't stop there. He raised Samuel's position to senior doorman, gave him new uniforms, and announced a full scholarship partnership for any staff's dependent who needed medical aid or school support from that day forward. No one would stand alone in his hotel. The lobby felt warmer, the shadows shorter. Ford still roamed sometimes as Ronald, mop in hand, not because he distrusted, but because he knew sometimes the greatest truths hide behind mop buckets and quiet boys guarding doors. Samuel's mother recovered her smile, returned. The staff learned fear and respect, but more importantly, kindness. The hotel's reviews soared. Guests whispered about the owner who cleaned his own floors and the doorman who once sold his phone to save his mother's life. The tip jars overflowed now with genuine gratitude, not stolen coins, behind every sweet and champagne toast. lay a silent promise that good people would never again be left unprotected, and Mr. Kingsley Ford, with mop and hidden cameras, made sure of that. Mr. Kingsley Ford kept his promise, but with every smile he saw on Samuel's face, every new guest praising the boy's impeccable service, a gnawing unease settled deeper in his gut. Because for all the goodness Ford had unearthed, he'd also uncovered something darker, a trail of unexplained expenses, a gap in inventory reports, whispered rumors that staff files were being secretly edited by an unseen hand. One evening, while Samuel helped an elderly couple to their suite, Ford slipped back into his Ronald uniform, pushing his cleaning cart down a staff-only corridor. There, past the storage room, he found the door to archives, slightly ajar, light flickering. Inside, he knocked gently. No reply. He nudged it open. Shelves of paper files loomed over him. Decades of employment records, guest complaints, and security tapes. Something odd caught his eye. A newer shelf labeled personnel. Internal review. The folders were pristine, not yellowed like the rest. Ford pulled one labeled Samuel Adeyemi. Inside it listed disciplinary notes, all forged. Each page designed to make Samuel look like a troublemaker, a liar, someone undeserving of promotion or sympathy. But Ford knew the truth. His pulse thudded in his ears as he flipped to the last page. A fresh note dated just 2 days ago warned about Samuel conspiring to blackmail senior staff for cash. Ford's knuckles whitened. He heard footsteps. He pushed the file back into place just as a voice behind him spoke, low and calm, looking for something, Mr. Ford, or should I say Ronald? Ford turned slowly to see Langdon, the head of internal security, a man Ford had trusted for years, standing there, crisp uniform, eyes cold as marble, in his hand a tablet at screen showing hidden camera feeds, even ones Ford had never authorized. Did you think you were the only one watching? Langdon asked, his voice a knife disguised as silk. I protect this hotel from threats, even if that threat is you. Ford forced his voice to stay steady. What is this, Langdon? You're forging files, framing Samuel, skimming the accounts. Langdon smiled, a dead thing that didn't touch his eyes. You built this empire, but you forgot power needs shadows. I am that shadow. Before Ford could speak, Langdon pressed an earpiece. Security sweep zone 4. Immediately, 2 burly guards appeared, blocking the door. Ford stepped back, mind racing, his heart galloping. If Langdon had this much reach, how deep did this rot go? What did Langdon mean by threat? Ford weighed his options, lunged for the fire extinguisher, slammed it into the nearest guard's face. Chaos erupted. Langdon's calm face turned vicious. Ford ducked under a swinging bat and bolted through the emergency exit. Alarms blaring, his legs burned, but he ran faster than he had in years. He needed proof before Langdon buried it, before Samuel got hurt, before any loyal staff fell victim at the maintenance corridor. Ford ducked behind laundry carts, his disguise slipping, sweat soaking through the cheap uniform. He dialed. Samuel whispered, urgent instructions, trust me, go to suite 907, hide the flash drive in the vent behind the painting. Don't trust anyone, not even housekeeping. If they ask questions, run. Samuel's voice trembled, but he obeyed. Ford peered around the corner, saw Langdon pacing, barking orders into a walkie. He's loose, shut the floors, scan every staff pass. No one leaves till we find him somewhere. Behind the luxury wallpaper of the Grand Palisade, a different heartbeat pulsed. Surveillance drone small enough to fit inside exit signs. Listening, watching. Ford cursed himself for never seeing it, how Langdon had turned the hotel security into his private surveillance empire. Ford slipped into the staff elevator, pressing the secret override key. The lift hummed upward, silent except for his ragged breaths. At floor 24, the doors opened too soon. A guard lunged forward, jammed his thumb into the man's throat, and dashed down the corridor past honeymoon suites and silk-draped hallways. He needed the server room, the only place he could download the raw surveillance logs before Langdon's edits scrubbed his existence from them altogether. Behind him, a shout, a boot thudded against the marble floor. Ford forced open the IT room, dark, humming with blue server racks, cables like veins feeding secrets to Langdon's tablet. He hacked, and fingers trembling, he saw it, folders labeled CEO, watch list, employee leverage, guest compromises. It was all here, evidence that Langdon had been manipulating guest records, blackmailing high-profile visitors, even adjusting room assignments for bribes. Ford clicked download all. A progress bar crawled, a roar outside, fists pounding the door. He braced a metal Chair under the knob, praying for seconds. The bar crawled from 20% to 54 to 70. The door bent inward. He heard Langdon's voice on the other side. Calm, deadly Kingsley Ford, open this door, and I'll pretend you were confused, exhausted, grief-stricken. If you don't, I will break you and your precious boy. The download pinged. Complete. Ford ripped the drive from the port, pocketed it as the door burst inward. Langdon stepped through alone. No guards this time. Just him and that coiled menace in his posture. Hand it over, he said. Ford's breath caught. He laughed dryly. You always wanted to be me, Langdon, but you forgot something. Langdon's eyebrow flicked. And what's that? I built this place on loyalty, not fear. Ford lunged again. This time they crashed into a server rack. Sparks flew. They wrestled on the cold floor. Ford's hand found a cable, yanked it free, slammed it against Langdon's temple. A flash, a groan, then silence. Langdon lay still. Ford stumbled upright, one eye swelling shut, alarms still howling in the distance. He staggered to the stairwell, gripping the flash drive like a holy relic. Outside, the rain lashed the city. Glass towers blinking under storm clouds. Ford dialed Samuel. One more time, son, listen carefully. Hide in the boiler room. Don't trust the front desk. I'll come for you at dawn, I swear to you. But on the other end of the line, a new voice answered, not Samuel's, not even human, a voice that chilled Ford to his core. Mr. Ford, Samuel can't come to the phone right now, but don't worry, we'll take good care of him. Static, then silence. Ford's vision blurred. The wind whipped rain through the open stairwell door behind him. Police sirens below. Ahead, only shadows and lightning. And somewhere in this hotel, the boy who trusted him, now a hostage. As Ford clutched the drive, he knew one thing: this fight was far from over, and somewhere in the dark, Langdon's eyes would open again. Part 3. Waits in the storm. Kingsley Ford's mind raced faster than his pulse as he stumbled down the emergency stairwell of his own empire, his lungs raw from sprinting, his temple throbbing from Langdon's last blow, his vision dancing with ghostly afterimages of Samuel's terrified face, trapped behind that cold, mechanical voice. The flash drive in his palm burned like a brand, the only proof he had that the cancer inside the Grand Palisade had roots deeper than even Langdon's betrayal. He paused on the 15th floor landing, chest heaving, knuckles white around the metal rail, ears tuned for any footsteps behind him. None came. Langdon was too clever. He'd never chase openly again. He'd send shadows, trusted eyes, men and women who still believed he was the one truly protecting this golden tower. A faint rumble underfoot reminded Ford that this building, this fortress of marble and silk, was a living beast, a maze of service tunnels, hidden lifts, crawl spaces only old blueprints remembered. If Samuel was still alive, if they hadn't spirited him through a back dock exit into some black SUV, Ford had to find him first before Langdon used the boy as bait. He tucked the drive into the lining of his disguise, wiped sweat from his eyes, and pushed through the door to the 15th floor hallway. He barely recognized his own domain now. Overnight, new security had sprouted at every elevator bank. Muscular men in discreet black suits with earpieces curling like snakes behind their ears. One locked eyes with Ford, frowned at his housekeeping garb, then murmured something into his mic. Ford ducked sideways, heart pounding, slipped his master keycard into an unmarked linen closet, and pressed his back against shelves of fresh towels. Inside, the hum of the hotel felt more like a predator's breath. He fished out an old burner phone from the supply cart, a relic he'd kept for emergencies exactly like this. He dialed one number, Camila Espinoza, his head of guest relations and the only manager he trusted now that the web had been exposed. Her voice answered immediately, hushed. Sir, is it true? They say you're attacking staff, Langdon told everyone. Ford cut her off, voice low and urgent. Camila, listen. Langdon is the threat. Samuel's in danger. You have access to the staff locator, right? They're using our own system to track me. Use it to find Samuel. Where's his last ping? On the other end, keys clicked rapidly. Her breath quickened. Boiler level. Sub-basement. But Langdon's men are all over the service lift. And oh God, sir, Langdon flagged your ID. They locked the executive accounts. They want to trap you. Ford pressed his eyes shut. Mind carving paths through the bones of this building. Disable the staff locator. Then lock the east stairwell doors. Slow them down. I'm going to him. Camille, if you see Langdon, stall him. Lie. Do whatever you must. You have my word. You'll be protected. When this is over. Yes, sir. Her whisper quivered but held firm. Ford ended the call, pushed back into the corridor, and moved like a shadow past open suites, where laughter and oblivious tourists hid behind thick walls. He knew every blind spot, every vent shaft wide enough for a lean man to crawl through. 30 minutes later, filthy with dust and the scent of industrial grease, Ford pried open a maintenance grate above the sub-basement boiler chamber. Through the mesh below, he saw flickering orange light and a huddle of dark shapes. One tall silhouette in particular, Langdon's unmistakable posture, rigid hands clasped behind his back. Near him, on his knees, Samuel. A bruise purpled the boy's cheek, his green doorman cap missing. Two security brutes flanked him, shifting impatiently as Langdon's calm voice echoed. Off the pipes. You think he loves you, boy? You think Kingsley Ford is your savior? You are a tool, Samuel. A sad-eyed prop for his hero show. He'd watch you die if it bought him another headline. Samuel shook his head, voice cracking but defiant. He's not like you. He cares. He gave me hope. Langdon chuckled, a dry, hollow thing that scraped Ford's bones raw with hate. Hope is cheap, boy. Loyalty is profitable. And your death, right now, will buy me both. Ford's grip on the vent edge slipped. Rage threatened to blind him. He forced himself steady, mind cutting through the red fog. He spotted an old steam valve near the far wall, a lever that hadn't been turned in decades. If he could release it, the burst would blind Langdon's men for seconds, just enough to grab Samuel and run. Ford crawled back through the shaft, dropped silently behind a row of old boilers. Metal groaned under his weight, but the distant hiss of the heating system masked him. He crouched, hands trembling as they found the rusted valve handle. With every ounce of his strength, he wrenched it counterclockwise. A thunderclap of escaping steam filled the chamber. Men shouted. Langdon barked orders. Footsteps pounded metal grates. Ford charged through the mist, grabbed Samuel by the collar, half-dragged, half-carried him through a side hatch he'd unlocked weeks ago for emergency repairs. They burst into a narrow back tunnel, Samuel coughing, stumbling. Sir, Mr. Ford, why? Did he? No time, son, trust me, stay awake. Behind them, Langdon's furious voice bounced off the pipes. Find them. Block every exit. Ford pushed Samuel ahead, each step sending spikes of pain through his bruised ribs. At the tunnel's end, he punched open a trap door into a forgotten storage crawlspace beneath the main banquet hall, unused since a flood years ago. He slammed it shut behind him. They collapsed on old tarps and broken crates. For the first time since the nightmare began, Ford looked Samuel square in the eyes, bloodshot, wide with confusion, but alive. Samuel, listen, I have proof. Langdon stolen from guests, from me, blackmail, extortion. He wants to turn this place into his personal fortress. This drive, he tapped the lump hidden under his shirt. It's the key. But if he gets it, we're both dead. Understand? Samuel nodded weakly, tears cutting clean lines through the grime on his cheeks. I trust you, sir, always. Ford pulled the boy into a fierce embrace, fatherly, desperate, promising something words couldn't hold. He pulled back, forced a smile. Good lad. Now rest. We wait for Camilla's signal. Then we run. Together. But before Samuel could reply, Ford's old burner phone vibrated in his pocket. One new message. No number. Just 4 chilling words that froze the breath in his chest. We have Camilla too. Above them, faint but unmistakable, Langdon's measured steps echoing on the banquet hall's marble floor. He was close. Too close. And now Ford knew. This wasn't just about saving Samuel anymore. This was war. And he was out of places to hide. Kingsley Ford felt the stale air of the crawlspace press against his lungs like a confession. Every breath carried the scent of mildew and old wood rot, a stark contrast to the polished marble, the expensive cologne, the perfumed sheets of the penthouse suites that bore his name. Now, he was no better than a rat in his own walls, clutching a trembling boy and a flash drive that had the power to burn down everything he had built, unless Langdon buried it first. Beside him, Samuel lay curled on a filthy canvas tarp, eyes swollen from exhaustion and fear, yet fixed on Ford with a quiet faith that clawed at the older man's ribs harder than any bruise. Ford pressed his palm gently against the boy's shoulder, grounding them both in a moment too fragile for the storm overhead. Above the wooden hatch, muffled voices bounced off the banquet hall's grand acoustics. Langdon's voice rose clear and serpentine. "Sweep every corner. Check the old maintenance shafts. He won't run far with that limp," and the boy slows him down. Samuel winced at the words, his breath shallow. Ford's jaw tightened so hard his teeth ached. He forced his mind past the dread, past the urge to break through the hatch and snap Langdon's neck with his bare hands. He needed strategy now, not heroics. He leaned down, whispering so close to Samuel's ear that the boy shivered. "Listen, there's a service conduit behind these crates. It leads to the old laundry chute. If we crawl through, we pop out in the staff laundry on floor 5. From there, I have an old security pass that still works. On the garage exit, we get out. We get to my cabin outside the city. We regroup." Samuel nodded, voice hoarse. "What about Miss Camila?" "He has her." Ford's get twisted. The text on his burner phone pulsed in the dark like a heart. "We have Camila too." He couldn't show the boy the second message that had followed moments later. One line, more sinister than any threat so far. "One more betrayal, Kingsley, and I break her on the lobby steps while the cameras roll." He lied because he had to. "She's smart, Samuel. She knows how to stall him. Right now we survive. Then we free her. Understood?" A tear slipped down the boy's dirt-smeared face, but he nodded. Ford ruffled his hair, once quick fatherly, to remind himself this was more than a war for bricks and profit. This was about people, innocent people. They shifted the crates slowly, painfully. The hidden conduit mouth gaped black and damp. Ford went first, ignoring the ache that tore through his ribs with each inch forward. Samuel crawled after, stifling coughs with the crook of his arm. Behind them, the hatch groaned. Then a voice barked. "Found it! Down here!" Panic struck like a bullet. Ford hissed, "Go! Crawl faster!" He shoved Samuel ahead, the boy's shoes scraping metal as they squeezed into the chute. Pipe, a rusty iron vein that once carried cheats, now carrying 2 lives balanced on a splintering lie. Langdon's echo slipped into the shaft behind him. "Run, Kingsley. Run as long as you can. The boy will beg for death by the time I'm done." Ford snarled under his breath, arms screaming as he dragged himself through the tight curve of the chute. He could feel Samuel's foot just ahead. Then the pipe widened, opening above a dark concrete drop. He caught Samuel's ankle just as the boy slipped, and together they tumbled out, crashing into a mountain of damp laundry bags stacked behind the service washers. Pain ricocheted up Ford's spine, but he clamped a hand over Samuel's mouth before the boy could cry out. Muffled footsteps approached from the far door, Langdon's men sweeping the lower floors. Ford motioned silent, finger to lips. He could taste blood on his tongue from a bitten cheek, but ignored it. He tugged Samuel behind a rolling cart piled high with soiled linens. Through a slit in the fabric, he watched 2 guards step in, flashlights scanning piles, boots splashing through a puddle. From a leaking pipe overhead, one guard's radio crackled. Negative on the ballroom crawl. Checking maintenance. Sweep the staff garage next. They moved on. The door slammed. Ford exhaled for the first time in minutes. He pressed his forehead to Samuel's temple, whispering shakily, "Almost there. Can you run?" Samuel's voice broke on a whisper. "I can try, sir." Ford checked the corridor through a laundry chute window. Empty. He helped Samuel up, wincing at the stiffness in his own legs. He fished in his back pocket. A security card, faded but still magnetic. He held it up like a relic. One last sprint. Stay low. Hold my hand. Don't look back, no matter what. They bolted, slipping through the damp staff corridors, weaving between industrial washers and ancient mop buckets that squeaked on the floor. Each turn felt like racing through veins of an old beast who resented its master now. They burst into the staff garage, a cold cement cavern lined with delivery trucks and executive sedans. Ford spotted his old Jaguar parked in the corner, under a dusty tarp no one bothered to move for years. They staggered to it, Samuel clinging to his coat sleeve, both panting clouds of breath in the frigid air. Ford ripped the tarp off, slammed the key into the ignition slot, praying the battery hadn't died with his old illusions. The engine coughed, then roared awake, a glimmer of hope. Ford shoved Samuel into the passenger seat, vaulted behind the wheel. He hit the garage door. Switch on the remote clipped under the dash, ancient but blessedly functional. The door creaked, lifting painfully slow. Headlights flooded in, slicing through the gloom like a promise. Ford shifted into drive, foot hovering. Hold on, son. We're. The roar of tires behind them. Langdon's black SUV skidded into the garage, floodlights blinding through the rearview. The back door flung open. Ford saw him, Langdon, calm as death itself, stepping out silenced, pistol gleaming under the harsh white lights. He aimed. Ford slammed the accelerator. The Jaguar squealed on the slick concrete, lunging for the shrinking gap under the rising door. A gunshot cracked, glass shattered. Samuel screamed. Ford's vision blurred with adrenaline and rage. They punched through the garage door like a battering ram. Metal scraped the roof. Sparks flew. Then they were free, spinning into the empty back alley. City rain hammering the windshield like nails. Ford didn't stop. He raced through the service lanes, mind roaring with one truth: Langdon wouldn't chase with police around. He'd strike in secret, from the shadows. And he had. Camila, alive, maybe, but for how long? Beside him, Samuel sobbed, clutching a shallow graze on his arm where the bullet had nicked him. Ford grabbed his hand, squeezed hard enough to promise the world, "We're alive. He won't win. I swear to you he won't." But then the dashboard lit up. A GPS signal Ford hadn't activated blinked red. A digital voice crooned calm death into the cabin. "Hello, Kingsley. You didn't think I'd let you drive away blind, did you?" The Jaguar engine stuttered, then died, strangled by remote override. The car rolled to a silent stop in the middle of an abandoned industrial park. From every corner of the night, black SUVs crept into view, headlights flicking on like eyes in a nightmare. Ford's last thought before grabbing the drive and shoving Samuel down behind the seat was a single steel-edged vow. "Langdon, I will end you if it kills me." Kingsley Ford sat motionless behind the wheel of the dead Jaguar, rain pounding the roof like war drums. The silence inside the cabin was a cage, broken only by Samuel's ragged breathing and the soft digital hiss of the GPS, still mocking him in Langdon's voice. "You didn't think I'd let you drive away blind, did you?" Through the cracked windshield, the black SUVs idled in a predatory ring, headlights glaring like cold eyes. Shadows moved behind tinted windows, Langdon's loyal hounds ready to drag them back in chains. Kingsley felt the weight of the flash drive pressed to his ribs, the last spark of leverage in a world that had slipped through his fingers the moment he'd underestimated the monster he'd groomed. He turned to Samuel, whose small frame trembled, teeth chattering. A smear of dried blood crusted his cheek from the graze. Ford cupped his face, forcing calm into his voice even as his mind raced to insanity's edge. "Listen to me, Samuel. I need you to trust me. No matter what happens in the next 10 minutes, you don't move unless I say. Understand?" Samuel nodded, trying to speak, but no sound came. Only wide brown eyes full of the same trust that first broke Ford's armor in the marble lobby days ago. A sharp rap on the driver's window. Ford flinched. Langdon's face materialized through the Rain spattered glass, smirking beneath the brim of his hood. The man raised his pistol, tapped the barrel gently against the window like a metronome measuring the seconds left in Ford's. Freedom. Ford unlatched the door, stepping out slowly, hands visible, ignoring the water that soaked him. Instantly, he stood tall, no longer the battered fugitive, but the king of this concrete empire. Even as it crumbled around him, Langdon circled him like a patient shark, voice soft and coiled. "Where's the boy, Kingsley? Be honest. It spares him pain." Ford forced a laugh through the rain. "You've stolen my staff, my accounts, my name in whispers. But you'll never have him. He's the piece you can't corrupt." Langdon's mouth twitched at one corner. Amusement or disgust, Ford couldn't tell. "You think this is about the boy? Or you still believe you're the hero? A guy in a suit mopping floors to look noble?" Ford didn't answer. He kept one hand tucked behind him, fingers curled tight around the flash drive, its edges biting into his palm. He let Langdon rant, knew the man's pride would always loosen his guard. Asterisk. "Do you know how easy it was to turn your precious palace into my throne room?" Langdon hissed close to his ear now, the pistol pressing against Ford's ribs. "You trusted loyalty. I trusted fear. And fear always wins." A harsh chuckle bubbled out of Ford's chest. "Then you've forgotten the oldest rule of all. Langdon, fear only rules until a man has nothing left to lose." With a grunt, Ford slammed his knee up, driving it into Langdon's gut. The gun fired wildly, a thunderclap in the downpour, and Ford ripped the pistol away, smashing the butt into Langdon's temple. The man staggered, stunned, as the SUVs erupted with shouting indoors. Slamming open, Ford spun, flung the back door of the Jaguar wide. "Run, Samuel. Go." The boy bolted into the rain-drenched maze of rusting cargo containers behind the abandoned warehouse. Ford fired blindly toward the advancing men, forcing them to duck behind bumpers. He knew he couldn't hold them off for long. He ducked behind the car, chest heaving, then scanned the shadows until he saw Samuel's shape disappear between metal walls. Langdon recovered, snarling, blood at the corner of his mouth. He lunged, tackling Ford against the dripping Jaguar. The gun clattered away. They wrestled in the mud and oil, grunting like beasts stripped of suits and titles. Langdon's fingers wrapped around Ford's throat, squeezing. Spots of fire danced in Ford's vision, but he focused on one thing, the flash drive. He wrenched it free, shoved it down the back of Langdon's collar, deep under his coat. Langdon froze, realizing too late. Ford rasped through bruised windpipes. "Checkmate, you bastard. Now if you kill me, you lose your prize." Langdon's eyes flared with animal hate. He slammed Ford's head into the car door once, twice. Darkness threatened to swallow everything, but above the thunder and shouts, a child's voice cut through like a lifeline. "Mr. Ford, over here." Samuel had circled back, the foolish brave boy, dragging behind him a length of rusted chain from the shipping yard. He swung it wide, cracking it against Langdon's back. Langdon roared, spun, and backhanded the boy viciously. The sight reignited every last ember in Ford's battered soul. He lunged up, grabbed Langdon's collar, and together they smashed through the fragile wire fence, tumbling into the rain-churned mud beyond. They rolled, fists landing dull, wet smacks, curses swallowed by the storm. Ford's vision flickered. In flashes of lightning, the man who once handled millions reduced to a feral creature tearing at the face of his betrayer. Then through the haze, red and blue lights, sirens, dozens. Police floodlights exploded over the scrap yard. Orders barked through megaphones. Officers fanned out, weapons drawn. Langdon staggered up, one knee on Ford's chest, a shard of broken windshield in his hand, blade glinting. "No trial for me, Kingsley. No cell. If I burn, I take you with me." Ford spat blood into the man's face and whispered hoarsely, "See you in hell, Langdon." A single gunshot cracked through the night, loud, final. Langdon's eyes widened, then dulled. He collapsed sideways, the shard slipping harmlessly into the mud. Behind him, Samuel stood frozen, the abandoned pistol smoking in his tiny, trembling hand. Ford rolled over, gasping at the stormy sky. Somewhere above the sirens and Samuel's sobs, he thought he heard Camila's voice carried on the wind, a promise that she was alive, that this was not for nothing. Uniformed arms pulled Samuel away, gentle, protective. Hands lifted forward from the ruin of the yard, pressing gauze to the gash on his temple, murmuring words he barely heard. In the blur of paramedics and reporters, Ford's eyes locked with Samuel's one last time. Hope flickered there, not in the gold ceilings or the marble floors of the Grand Palisade, but in a single boy who had sold his phone to buy his mother's medicine and unknowingly taught a king what loyalty really cost. As they loaded Ford into the ambulance, a detective leaned close, voice urgent. "Mr. Ford, the hotel's secure. We have Camila, but we found something else in Langdon's suite, encrypted. Files. Big. It's not over yet." Ford's vision dimmed at the edges. His lips cracked into a defiant smile even as the morphine drifted him toward blackness. "Then wake me up when you crack them, detective. I built this kingdom once. I'll bury its ghosts myself." And as the sirens wailed him into the waiting dawn, a single thought pulsed like a heartbeat. Under the bandages and 4 lines, the real fight had only just begun. Hey, if you felt every twist in this story, you're exactly where you need to be. Hit that subscribe button right now. And don't forget the notification bell, because the secrets we're about to expose will shock you even more. Join this family, stay curious, and together we'll uncover every hidden truth. See you in the next one.